last 2 minutes of a game, if there is a penalty that allows the clock to run off and I have to take the penalty, or if I take the penalty, I feel like I should get my 4 seconds back. I want my freaking 4 seconds back if I'm Ohio State. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Rece Davis, he frequently needs more say. He's always having to say, guys, let's move through this pick right here. Rece is with us now. College Game Day. What is up, Rece? How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing awesome. We appreciate it. Rece with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. I want to start first with a congratulations followed by a question. Your guys' numbers, ESPN continues to send us information. You all are having one of the best college game day years you've ever had. And there's never been more competition in that space, by the way. So that speaks very highly of what you guys are doing. So, A, congratulations. And B, why do you think that you guys are seeing a bump in numbers?
I think there's a lot of excitement surrounding the sport, the expanded playoff, the newness of realignment. And then for our show particularly, I mean, the dynamic of having Nick Saban on the set has first created curiosity and then delivered components of must-see television. I mean, you don't want to miss what he might have to say. And then the chemistry that he's had with Pat McAfee, because the odd couple formula has worked on the silver screen, on Broadway, on television, always works. And those two guys like each other and they have great chemistry. Then you combine that with Kirk's place in the sport as the analyst voice of the sport. And I think, and then Desmond's sort of approach to it, being a star former player and his unique insight there, it's just created a really good dynamic that I think has worked well for us. And I think the uptick has been surrounding the fact that people wanted to see, okay, what's this new dynamic with all of these people on the set together? What's this going to be like? And our guys have worked very hard to deliver as best they can for the fans every week. And I think they've done so in a tremendous fashion.
And Rece understandably did not include himself in that, but Rece deserves a lot of credit for this as well. I texted Rece after the game. It was Texas, Michigan. You guys had moved on the field. You had a power outage. The truck was having glitches. You just had random people like walking up during the segment, just talking to the guys on the set. And Rece never missed a beat. I was like, dude, I do not know how you managed that. I mean, that was incredible.
I think one of the random people was before his guest picker segment was Michael Phelps. Yes. So you didn't want to really shoo him away, So it was no, but it was fun, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's I always kind of look at hosting those shows. First of all, I think to do it well, you need to be involved in the conversation. You also need to know your limitations. I'm not going to debate Nick Saban over the intricacies of press technique coverage press coverage technique. That would not be wise, nor the role of the host. But you can talk about, whether it's NIL money, or last week when we talked about the fake injuries and all of those types of things. And not that we disagreed, but those types of things, a host needs to be involved in the discussion, and they can have a reasonable difference of opinion with a former player, former coach, and it's not out of bounds. If you start arguing about them, well, now he's not building his program right, or that guard pull, the steps are wrong, or something, then you're out of your lane, and that's not what I'm talking about. But I don't think that you're doing the job effectively if you're not immersed in the show and immersed in the conversation. If you are just asking questions, what do you think about this game? What do you think about that game? Then I don't think it's as effective as the way, at least, that I attempt to do it.
Rece, back to Game Day in Tuscaloosa a few weeks ago, Pat McAfee brought up the fact that y'all had dinner at the Sabans, and there were some good Lane Kiffin stories, and you guys kind of laughed. I don't know if you can get into one of those, but what is like the best?
I would say no.
The best Sabans.
Not doing that. What's said at the Friday night dinner table?
Fair enough.
It's at the Sabans house or elsewhere, stays at the Friday night dinner table.
But
sorry about that. No, but I'm not going there.
He has got so many funny stories that we hear off the cuff, and I'm just wondering if there is one that you can share with us.
Oh, I mean, there are so many. I love hearing his stories. In fact, I was talking to him this week, and we were talking about some things with the show, and I said to him, as a general rule of thumb, I said, now there may be times when we have to, move to something else, go to break, whatever it might be. I said, but as a general rule of thumb, if you have a story, tell it. Because it's like the old adage that if you probably have this a little bit wrong. I think it's from Steve Sable from NFL Films. He used to say something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing here, and I wish I could recall the quote exactly correctly, but it's basically something to the effect of, tell me a truth and I'll believe it. State a fact and I'll accept it. Tell me a story and it'll live in my heart forever.
Wow,
right.
yeah, that's good.
And Nick is a great storyteller, and we want to tell those. He told one, I don't know if this is his best one, but for some reason this one jumped to mind. He was telling the story a few weeks ago, and he had told us at dinner the night before of when he was coaching for Belichick with the Browns. And there was a guy, I believe his name was Joe Kim. I believe he was a martial arts expert, and he believed that he could help the pass rushers. And Belichick didn't want to talk to the guy and basically sent Nick down to talk to him and to basically get it off his plate. Go talk to this guy, mixed martial arts and martial arts. He's not going to help us. I don't know about this. You go take care of that. Nick didn't really want to do it, as he tells the story, but he goes down there, talks to the guy, and before long he goes back up and tells Belichick, I believe this guy can help us. And this guy becomes like the pass rush guru in the entire NFL. And he said, I go down there thinking, I got to get this guy out of here. I've got work to do. And instead, it becomes a guy who's helped. So there are a ton of stories like that. There are so many about the various guys who've come through the staff, even with Dan Lanning last week, and the idea that he was going to try to hire Dan, and Kirby beat him to it, and then Nick's got great timing telling stories, and he's funny, and it's been a great boon for our show.
So Nick Saban storytelling is the green light base running of Ricky Henderson on game day.
Yes, yes. You always have the green light. Go. Take the extra base.
And somewhere in the future, Nick Saban will look at Pat McAfee and say, I used to do a show with a guy a lot like you. John Allroot there. Yeah. Hey, so you're heading to Austin. It's Georgia and Texas, right? So this is a big game. Have you seen a Georgia identity yet from this Kirby Smart team? It just doesn't look the same this year yet for Kirby.
There's more. There are more missed tackles, not in aggregate necessarily, but we have these deep dive stats. You look at the broken tackle, missed tackle attempt percentages, and that's way, way higher than it typically is for Georgia. They haven't hit the quarterback or sacked him as often as you might expect, although I know that Kirby's always been sort of the same mindset that Nick always was, that affecting the quarterback is as important oftentimes as actually taking him to the ground. But I would say that Kirby would like to see his players make contact with the quarterback. And that turns out that's all he was really demonstrating with Michael Van Buren last week, was how to affect the quarterback on the sideline. Kirby apologized for that. It's no big deal. But, I haven't. But I'll say this, guys, and you probably have heard me say this on the show. Poor old Georgia. Just going down to Austin, hoping they can find a way to get a first down. Just, I don't know, this Texas juggernaut. I just don't know what poor old Georgia is going to do about that. Texas is a great team. And I do think up to this point in the season that Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State, in my judgment, from the way they've played, have separated themselves a little bit. And because of the identity question that you mentioned with Georgia, I think they'll include themselves in that group. They've got to prove it a little bit, but it's pretty important to me to point out that while Texas defense is outstanding, and what I'm about to say doesn't mean they aren't, among their Power 4 opponents, they have faced a starting quarterback who is a former walk-on making the second start of his life, and 2 true freshmen. The best passing offense they've seen is UTSA. They haven't seen anything like Carson Beck in Georgia. And I know people will say, well, Carson Beck needs a signature win. And that's probably true. That's fair critique when you are the quarterback at Georgia and for an aspiring national champion. But Texas hasn't seen a passing offense like this. Even if you have questions about Georgia's receivers, which I do to some degree, this is a different challenge for them as well. I think it's going to be a great game. And I agree with your premise that Georgia hasn't been quite what you expect in the Kirby era on defense yet. But I think they have the personnel to get there, and I think they've been challenged now. And I would imagine that they'll arrive in a irritable disposition on Saturday night.
Tom reminds us of the mybookie.ag chat room. I had forgotten this came up in the offseason when Chip Brown told us this is also the F1 weekend in Austin. So,
and Eminem and Sting apparently are doing post-race concerts. There might be someone of great prominence and interest to your particular geographical area who might get a little experience in an F1 car this weekend, as you'll see on College Gameday. Maybe. Maybe. We'll see how that plays out.
Okay, so Nick Saban coached at Alabama, and Rece Davis is from Alabama.
And I'm going to say Charles Barkley can't fit in the car.
Charles Barkley cannot fit in one. Yes. So we'll see. I just feel like, Rece, we were trying to like project where, 10-2 teams, 9-3 teams, whatever. We're scared to death to make a projection right now, the way this season is going. Like, I just feel like every team's day of reckoning is coming. It's going to be one of those years.
Feels like it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had gargantuan games that have delivered. We've had just mind-boggling upsets. And while I fully acknowledge that Vanderbilt is much improved and a really good team, and Pavia is a great story and really fun to watch, Alabama shouldn't lose that game.
No.
Northern Illinois is a solid team. Notre Dame shouldn't lose that game.
Nope.
That's just the way it is. But because of this year and because of the experience that teams can put together quickly in the transfer portal, that if you are not ready, you might be more vulnerable than you would be historically in college football in some of those situations. So, I think that you're right. Everybody's going to get clipped. I was asked a question last night on SportsCenter. Among the teams in the SEC who are in danger, and one definitely will, suffer its second loss of the season, who can most afford it? And in my judgment, that's Georgia. And I don't know exactly how all of these playoff predictor things go, but the percentage chance of Georgia making the playoffs only drops from like something 69 to 62% if they were to lose against Texas. Now, obviously, it changes the calculus a little bit if they get beat by 3 touchdowns, which I don't anticipate. So there's a lot at stake for all of these teams, but I would say that Alabama and Tennessee, in that regard, are the ones who certainly hope won't be lost, but it will take a significant hit whoever loses in that game Saturday afternoon in Knoxville.
I know you can't confirm this. We were trying to project, though, but if Texas beat Georgia, Vanderbilt as a 27.5-point favorite beats Ball State, they're probably ranked, or they definitely are ranked. Is there a chance you guys are in Nashville in a couple of weeks?
I would say it's on the list. It's certainly a week that would open that door. We've looked over a couple of things. There is probably, not to give away any secrets, but I think the easy one would be Notre Dame and Navy, but that's not on campus. And, historically, we would much prefer to be on campus. So I wouldn't phrase it as a lock by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly I would put it in the category of under evaluation.
Boy, I mean, you're asking about Lane Kiffin stories and future game day locations.
We'll see what we get Rece on.
Yeah. I mean, would you like to ask him what he's getting his wife for Christmas on things he can't answer right now? So, listen, I've loved, Georgia, Texas, great helmet game, now a conference game. I've loved the old Rose Bowl look games that are the new Big Ten matchups like the one we had last week. But there's got to be something in my old soul with Keith Jackson echoing in my brain of Alabama, Tennessee with the cold weather now here in the South. This game this weekend has sort of a playoff feel around here. What do you think of Bama and Tennessee?
It's really, Jim, it's kind of a fascinating game, I think, because Alabama's defense has had some issues, as you guys, I'm sure, have talked about and pointed out, in terms of not getting off the field on 3rd and 4th down, allowing some big plays in crucial moments, things like that. And the Tennessee offense has had trouble lately creating those plays. But I think the thing that people probably need to understand about Tennessee that is a little bit contrary to what you've become accustomed to with Josh Heupel is that this team's strength, in my judgment, is the defensive front, particularly the defensive line and the depth that they have, and the running game. Now, Nico Iamaleava is a really talented guy who's going to be a great quarterback and already is super talented and is dangerous for sure. But he's learning to play at this level. Maybe he comes out and throws for 400 Saturday, but up to this point, it's been pretty pedestrian in terms of statistics against SEC competition. They've relied on Dylan Sampson, who I think has run for 15 touchdowns already this season, and is among the leading rushers in the country. And that defensive front, they just keep rolling guys through. Now they do have to replace Keenan Peely, who was hurt last week. And when I talked to Tim Banks, their defensive coordinator, earlier this season, before I called their game against NC State, having Peely back was a really big deal in terms of communication, organization, getting everybody lined up. But they have a lot of veterans up front on that defense. Their secondary was largely new. They didn't have the transfer from Oregon State, who's been really good in helping them in man coverage. But, the front is the strength. So I think a big thing in this game Saturday is, can Alabama's offensive line create anything in the running game? And also, can they avoid negative plays? Can they avoid big sacks, strip sacks, like turned out to be huge, or hit sacks, maybe more so than strip, in the Vanderbilt game? Can they protect Milroe well enough, and can they get enough going in the running game? I know people are probably up in arms about the way Alabama has played in its last two games, but of the many bullet points on Kalen DeBoer's resume is the ability to bring out the best in his team in the biggest situations. If you don't believe that, you can ask Oregon twice last year. You can ask Steve Sarkisian twice in the previous 2 years, or you can ask Kirby Smart from this game. They will have a game plan that will be a challenge for Tennessee. And I think the question becomes, can they protect against that Tennessee front? And can the defense fix some of those communication issues in order to make Tennessee be effective time and time again running the football, and not supplement what is, I'm sure, going to be a solid running day from Sampson? Will they keep them from supplementing that with big chunk plays through the air?
ESPN's Game Day is off to a record start. They are on their way now to Austin, Texas. It will be hard to one-up. My sign fell. Yeah. It always falls. It will be hard to one-up last week in college football, but they'll give it a shot this week. Thank you very much, Rece. Enjoy Austin, and enjoy, if it is you, riding in the F1 car. Don't vomit.
All right. See you guys later.
All right. Thank you, Rece. Rece with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.